Hi, I'm Veronica, a somatic yoga teacher and expert in dealing with anxiety and its body symptoms. And this is my mini series about letting go. Today I'm going to show you the last way that I really like to use, like the last technique to release the tension from your body, and that's often an emotional tension. And it takes time. So this is kind of practice where you have to be prepared for, where your nervous system already is in a place that it's ready for it. That's why if you haven't seen it yet, please watch my previous video. So that you know that maybe it's a good idea to do something more active, dynamic first before you move to this kind of practice, depending on where you're starting from or how you're feeling when you decide to try this kind of practice. And I will, as usual, give you just one pose as an example, but basically what we're going to do is to give the body that certainty that there is ground support underneath, and whatever you always grip or hold on to, you don't really need to do it because there is that support. And as I said, it takes time and it requires some stillness. So there is a possibility there will be some thoughts or emotions popping up which can kind of disturb this process. But I'll try to kind of address it as I talk it through. Okay, so the only thing you're gonna need is a cushion. It can be a small square cushion. It could be more a kind of rectangular shaped cushion, or I'm actually using a folded blanket, and that's gonna work as well. But you need some height, and you have to make sure that whatever you've chosen is soft. If it's going to be, so definitely not a block or anything like this, because you want to have a feeling that you're sinking into something that is quite pleasant to sink into, all right? And this is going to be done entirely lying down. And the aim of it is to give your back muscles, particularly lower back muscles, that signal that you don't need to grip, you don't need to be contracted all the time, you don't need to do that extra work, okay? So the way it's going to work, you place whatever you have chosen as your prop just behind your sit bones. Sit bones are those kind of little bony parts you can feel in the middle of each buttock. So you want to feel that those ones are definitely on the ground. And then the support will be underneath your lower back, and really go really slowly, as you might feel that this is actually too intense for you. So let this descent be a little bit slower, and then you want to feel that you're landing with your shoulder blades on the ground. So your sit bones on one side and shoulder blades on the other side are on the mat. The knees stay bent, the feet are on the mat. You can play with where exactly you want them to be. And depending on where you want to take it, you might feel more like protecting that front and maybe place something over it or have your hands over it. Or you might feel ready, and it might feel okay to actually feel that opening through the front body. But check with yourself if you're really fine with it. And when you decide on the position of the arms, let them be also quite heavy and relaxed. So there will be quite a bit of stillness, and there might be that initial discomfort, like almost like your back is what the hell is happening right now? Like, this is so weird. And it might be that initial gripping happening as that first reaction. So that is perfectly normal, and check with yourself if you can stay with that initial moment of discomfort. And now your task is to kind of override that automatic response from your back muscles. Maybe by taking a deep breath in and full breath out, but giving that message to your lower back that, okay, actually nothing really terrible or scary is happening right now. It might feel uncomfortable if it's like any piercing, sharp sensation and obviously come out of it. But maybe it just feels a bit weird or uncomfortable, and this is fine. So long as you're giving yourself that internal permission. All right, I'm fine with it, that it's gonna feel a bit funny. And now what I can do to make it more comfortable for myself. And that's where the real point of that whole practice begins. So the point is that actually right now, maybe you are in that over-exaggerated shape when your whole back is in a shortened position, but it doesn't really need to be engaged. It doesn't need to be on. So your message to your back and all the other parts of the body for that matter is that, okay, can I give some of my weight onto that nice and soft support underneath me? Is it possible that I don't hold that position with my strength, but rather melt as much as possible for me for this moment, melt into that soft, nice cushion underneath. And that's very probable the initial response will be hell no, but you're giving it some time. You're giving it a chance. Is there a possibility to become a bit softer, a bit heavier, to sink deeper into that soft support underneath the back? And that's when the breath can come as an extra aid. So there is this moment when the inhalation causes the expansion of the front. You might feel it. It might be felt in the belly, in the upper belly, maybe somewhere in the rib area. But the exhale, it's almost like a moment of a temporary surrender. This is that message that you don't need to be on all the time. That it's perfectly fine to surrender the weight of your body onto the ground. That will include the weight of your legs through the feet directly to the ground, the weight of your pelvis, of your sit bones directly to the ground, the weight of your shoulder blades straight into the ground, the weight of your head and arms, but also the weight of your back into that soft support underneath you. But keep on checking how you're feeling about that. And there might be waves of nervousness or anxiety rising from time to time. Check if you can stay with that as well. Let it be there. Don't pretend that it's not there. But check if it can be exactly this, the wave that comes, and then ask yourself, is there any space for that softness? If there's any way I can become more comfortable where I am. And the best way to observe it is to notice how are you feeling now as compared to that first moment, that first kind of a little bit of a shock moment. Maybe by now there is a possibility of softening more and more parts of the body. Maybe you notice that there was some gripping in the buttocks, and you can ask yourself, is there any chance that those buttocks will become now relaxed and not gripping? And how about the thighs? How about the pelvic floor? So that's the entire area between the pubic bone, the tailbone, and those bony landmarks here. So basically the whole base, the bottom of your pelvis. How about the belly? On the exhale, is there any chance that can soften? The area just below the ribs, the diaphragm. The face, your jaws. And if you start feeling that you're kind of pinned down and immobilized and it doesn't feel safe for you, it doesn't feel good for you, remember, there is always a possibility to change the position a little bit, to shift it a tiny bit, to do something that makes you feel that, yes, I'm still completely in charge of this situation. I decide where is my body, how long I want to stay here. There is always this empowering part of it. It's not just collapsing. You can check how much of that control you can let go of, and how does it feel actually to let go of it. But if something tells you, all right, that's been enough, I'll definitely have enough of it, you can come out. And actually we are going to get into that stage. So if you had your arms overhead, you can slowly bring them now closer towards your body. And you can place now your heels underneath the knees, as it's going to be easier for you later to come out of the pose. And the whole process of coming out is super slow, and it's very important that it's super slow, so that again you're not like gripping straight away. So keep all your attention now on your feet, on that contact of your feet with the ground, and think of bringing more weight onto your feet. You're not pushing away. It's nothing rapid. It's nothing very strong. It's just the weight of distributing your weight differently. So a little bit more weight onto your feet. And you will notice that the more and more weight is on your feet, the less weight is on your sit bones. So eventually that will cause your sit bones to very gradually and very slowly peel off the ground. And you might notice that your relationship of the pelvis to the ground is changing. It starts tilting, but you're not doing it from the pelvis. Everything can stay relaxed. Your belly can stay soft. Your pelvic floor can stay soft. Your back, most importantly, is still relaxed. It doesn't need to do anything for it to happen. The only thing that you're focusing on is to give more weight to your feet, and that's it. You might feel there's a little bit of aliveness in your legs, but you're still consciously keeping the whole area of the pelvis, belly, and the back quiet. Think of it as those areas being quiet. Check if you're not tensing the jaws, if you can stay with the sensations, being curious of sensations. So you don't want to jump into the next stage too quickly. Because lots of things happen every split second. Every little change in the angle of your pelvis is bringing you sensations. You might feel it. Just be curious about it. So there's nothing you want to gain or achieve. You're simply aware of all those minute changes that happen. And there will be the point where your hips are definitely now, your buttocks are clearly off the ground, and your lower back is still lying quite heavily on the soft support underneath. And you keep on shifting that weight to your feet until you feel that there's not entire of the weight of your back on that soft support anymore, that it starts shifting, that now it's just really lightly touching. And when it starts touching lightly, that's when you can use your hands to gently remove it. But don't drop, stay where you are. You'll be kind of hanging now, hanging like in a hammock. So again, all of the weight is on your feet, it's on your shoulder blades. And as much as possible, keep your belly, your buttocks, your back soft. And then again, use your exhales to come down. So it's gonna be exhale to lower just one vertebra down. You could imagine, visualize how just one vertebra rests on the ground as you take an exhale. Have a break for next inhale, and again, only one vertebra rests. Sometimes you might actually feel it. Sometimes it might be more the matter of visualization. But move super, super slowly, just one vertebra resting at a time, starting from those higher vertebrae and moving down towards your lumbar spine, towards your lower back. So there will be the moment when the vertebrae of the lower back of the lumbar spine starts resting on the ground, and they rest really one by one, one by one. So the last thing that is gonna land on the ground is that big triangle bone, the sacrum. And once the sacrum lands, that's when you start distributing the weight differently. And now it's distributed evenly over the feet, the sacrum, so the back of your pelvis, and the shoulder blades. And notice how it is to land. And again, this is the moment where that might feel like there's still lots of sensations lingering after coming out of this pose. So in a sense, it still might feel a little bit funny or weird, or it might already feel like quite released and very different. So wherever you are, you really want to give yourself time, give your body time to process all that has happened and check how much softness has appeared now in your lower back, or maybe even in your belly, both in the back and the front. And maybe you feel that this position somehow is different than that it usually does. That even as you're here, your lower back kind of keeps on sinking, being drawn towards the floor just by the gravity force. And it's always the rhythmic process that has something to do with your breath. So there is that moment of expansion and opening when you inhale, and the moment of sinking and softening when you exhale. So as much as it's important to give yourself the moment of stillness just after coming out of a position like this, you might also start feeling that urge to move. Rather than going for something really big straight away, start with micro movements. And it might be something as simple as rocking your pelvis from right to left. Rocking your pelvis from right to left, massaging across your sacrum. It might be that you really feel like lifting your feet off the mat and bringing your legs towards you. And maybe you want to explore now that direct contact of your lower back with the ground, and you could use a self-massage technique. So what I mean by that is that your own body weight is enough to massage your back. And depending on where your knees will be, you will feel it more in the lower back area or more in the sacrum and back of the pelvis area. And then you can land and rest again. That's how it feels. And maybe you feel like doing some big movement now. Could be stretching and yawning. So you could now arch the spine one more time. And then it might be interesting how it is now to lie flat. And if you tend to have lots of tension in your lower back, perhaps this is the position that normally feels super uncomfortable. And perhaps there is some shift and it feels a little bit different than usually. So notice what is there to notice, but without having any particular expectations of the result. And really take your time with coming out. So you might feel like staying for quite a while in a fetal curl first, staying on the side for quite a while. And only after quite a long while, you could very slowly make your way up again. And notice how it feels to be upright. So again, if there is that tendency of your back to immediately grip and hold on and hold you tight so that you stay upright, perhaps now you might notice that it's possible for you to trust more your bones, how that weight rests directly to the ground, and how just the gravity stuck the bones one on top of the other, so that you don't really need to put that much effort with the muscles of your back. So notice how it feels. And I hope that you enjoyed this practice. Again, it's just an example. When you're giving your body time to release, and you're showing that you don't really need to be always on, you don't really need to always engage, that it's fine to trust that support you have from the ground, from underneath, the support of your bones sometimes. I will see you next time in the next episode where I'll talk more about the mind and all those racing thoughts and the worries and judgments that might come up. And in the meantime, if you'd like to know more about my approach, and I really love sharing lots of real stories and little tips, how you can use that body approach, that somatic approach to deal with anxiety and all the things combined, connected to it, then I invite you to sign up for my newsletter with kindness, which I send every Monday. You can see the link in the description below. I hope to see you next time. Thank you very much.